Most people wait until retirement until they do what they really want to do. Why not take the usual 20 to 30 year retirement and redistribute it throughout life instead? Hello, my name is Chris. I'm a medical doctor. I've been a doctor for around 8 years now, and I've taken 2 mini retirements throughout my life. I took my first mini retirement when I was 25 as a solo 6-month trip across Southeast Asia, and I took my second mini retirement just last year with my fiance, where we took a whole year off to travel the world. And I plan to take many more mini retirements throughout my life. This video is going to be a bit of a practical guide on how to do these mini retirements and also help with some of the mindset shifts that need to occur to allow you to do something like this. We're going to touch on topics like why you don't need to be rich to take mini retirements. We're going to talk about how mini retirements aren't escaping from life, but actually getting closer to life, and really just thinking about how we're just living life in a more logical order. Questioning the status quo, saving your life until you turn 65 to retire is a joke in my opinion. And I'm so glad I've done my life this way round because I could truly die with no regrets. Yes, I am a doctor, I am on a decent wage now, but I want to explain to you how you don't need all the money in the world to take time off work. Quick example, when I first graduated as a doctor, I was working in the NHS in the UK, where my hourly rate was £14 an hour, less than a Domino's pizza delivery driver. And it was only after a couple of years of doing this that I actually took my first mini retirement. And hopefully through the things that I'm showing in this video, it will show you that it's possible for anyone of any income. And this video will be more directed to people who want to travel on their mini retirement. Of course, you don't need to travel when you take your mini retirement, but I'm gonna go through why I think it's a good idea, both logistically and financially, to travel the world instead of just staying put in your home country. And I want people to realize that most people could travel long term, they just don't prioritize it. Or maybe they don't even realize that it's an option available to them. So without further ado, let's get on with this step-by-step practical guide. First things first, you need to know which character you're playing. And by this I mean know your living situation. And broadly, this can be divided into 3 buckets. There's people who are living at home with their parents, there's people who are renting accommodation, and there's people who have a mortgage. And depending which category you fall into will change how things are arranged logistically. Definitely the easiest launch pad is if you're living at home with your parents, you can essentially just leave all your stuff, all your belongings with them. You just buy a plane ticket and get out of there. There's a bit less planning and organization that you need to do. Most people, I think, will fall into the renting bucket, or you're more like my partner and I, where you have a mortgage on whatever place you're living in. But I think in all 3 cases, it will be about downsizing, getting rid of as much stuff as you can. If you're renting, you may be able to get rid of all your stuff. If it's furnished, you may need to acquire some storage space. And of course, you need to give your landlord plenty of notice when cancelling leases and stuff like that. For us personally, in our mortgage situation, we had to find tenants to occupy our property whilst we were away. That way we still had someone contributing towards mortgage. And instead of buying storage, what we did was we just put all our stuff, all our furniture and belongings into our garage, locked our garage, and we rented this place out as an apartment without a garage, which being in the city is pretty easy to do. A lot of people don't even drive around here. Okay, money, money, money. So finances are usually at the top of people's lists on what they're concerned about when taking a mini retirement, which of course is completely reasonable. The whole reason we go to work is to earn money, to live. And when you retire, you're not working and not getting any income. I want to reiterate, you don't need to be rich, you just need to reprioritize. How much money did it require for us to take a mini retirement? I did a whole video on this topic here where I break down the full spending for an entire year, a full 365 days of travel across the world. Before we left for traveling, we didn't have a number or a target that we wanted to hit. We just were in the headspace of saving as much as we could to travel as long as we could and traveling until the money runs out kind of thing. Of course, it depends on you, on what you want to do on your mini retirement. But as a quick benchmark, for my solo trip around Southeast Asia in 2019, I spent £6,000 over 6 months. That is roughly $7,700 US. And obviously at that time when I was a bit younger and didn't really care about luxuries and comforts, I was staying in dorms, staying in cheap hostels, etc. However, our trip last year, where it was a little bit more luxury, we didn't stay in a dorm really all year, we just stayed in private rooms. Between the 2 of us, we spent 70,000 Australian dollars for a whole year, which works out to be around $42,000 between 2 people for a whole year. Before you start planning your mini retirement, I highly recommend this book called Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. For me, this is one of the most eye-opening books that I read when it came to money and freedom. And there's some really good exercises in there on how to track your money to make sure that it aligns with your values. And that way you can cut out things which aren't contributing to your well-being, your way of life, and really keep your expenses to the minimum, which of course will mean you can save more and take a longer mini retirement. So yes, give this book a read, Your Money or Your Life. Start tracking your spending, seeing exactly where it goes. Not only will it help your finances, but it will also help your mindset around saving and money in general. Because taking a mini retirement isn't about being rich, it's about not wasting money on a life that you don't love. Traveling on your mini retirement. Like I said, travel is optional part of a mini retirement, but I highly recommend it. And here's why. So firstly, a big part of taking a mini retirement is for some time for introspection, time to get some perspective, time to experience new things. And I think travel allows for a lot of that. By traveling, it forces you to live minimally. You have to get rid of so much of your stuff, so much of your belongings that are weighing you down. And it makes you realize what you're actually using and what you don't really need in your life. The way I see it, I don't see travel as a vacation. I see travel as a way of learning, unlearning, and becoming. And then of course, financially, logistically wise, if you travel to cheaper countries, it gives you a longer runway for your mini retirement. And it's actually a lot cheaper to do your mini retirement in a less developed country compared to Australia, US, UK. So for example, my travel expenditure last year was 3,000 Australian dollars per month. My living expenses just to exist in Australia is 4,000 Australian per month. So I'm saving about 25% just by leaving the country. And I get a wealth of experiences, perspective, novelty, and everything else that comes with it. Planning versus no planning for traveling. So this is where me and my partner differ greatly. Jo, my fiance, she is a huge planner. Me on the other hand, I don't plan at all. So for my first trip 5 years ago, I literally just bought a ticket to Bangkok from London. I booked the first few nights of accommodation, and that was the extent of my planning. Whereas my partner, Jo, she had pretty much planned the whole year. A whole year of activities, things to do. And there are pros and cons of doing it either way. The pro of not being a planner like myself is that it allows for a lot of flexibility. It allows you to kind of just go with the wind, see what happens. It allows you to change plans like that. And when you make new friends, go where they're going. But of course, with that comes a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety. And if you do plan, you can often get the best out of your trip. You can find the best places to stay. You can find the best restaurants. It's a lot easier to find hidden gems and get off the beaten track when you've actually done a little bit of Googling, a little bit of research beforehand. And I'd say probably the best thing and why Jo and I worked so well together is because it forced us to do a trip which was a mixture of both. So a mixture of planned and unplanned. So we kind of got the best of both worlds in that respect. And this is where I quickly want to mention the concept of slow travel versus fast tourism. Slow travel is more about immersion, and it's not just ticking off countries from a list. When you stay in a place longer, you go deeper, you get to know locals, you get to know the culture, you actually get to a place and you get bored, which is actually really good for your own personal development. Slow travel, in my opinion, lets you notice things in the world, in yourself, things that you would otherwise miss. So a huge part of the logistics is just managing your possessions. Like I said at the start of the video, if you're renting or if you've got a mortgage, you'll need to find somewhere for all your belongings. And this is actually a really good part of the planning experience where you can downsize, you can learn what you actually use and what you no longer need. It kind of forces you to be a minimalist and forces you to keep only essential items, of which two I should explain to you now. This isn't going to be a packing video about what to pack on a long trip, but there are two items of clothing which I found super important. One was a light pair of trousers, because I was shocked just how many uses just one pair of trousers had. I use them as the bottom half of my scrubs when I was volunteering in the Philippines. I use them as a way to cover my knees when I was going to a meditation retreat or going to visit a temple. It was fantastic sun protection when we had our long journeys on motorbikes and your knees are just exposed to the sun. They acted as a barrier for mosquitoes. And also in the rare times that we found ourselves to be cold, they were a good way to keep my legs warm. As well as the walking trousers, highly recommend a pair of walking sandals. And these were just such a game changer. You could honestly just wear walking sandals and you'd probably be fine. Whenever you're hiking in nature or you're walking through streams and rivers, They're kind of multi-purpose and they're just super light, super easy to carry. But really I'd say for me, those two were the only essentials, and everything else besides my passport, I could take or leave. But what I want to drill home is the fewer possessions you have, the more freedom and the more spontaneity it allows. And as Henry David Thoreau said, the author of Walden, downsizing is the most vital step in winning the freedom to change your life. And very quickly, money-wise for banking, Joe and I both had a Wise and Revolut account. Super easy to set up. They're both like internet banks, and they were a really easy way to spend in a local currency, to exchange through different currencies. And we had Wise and Revolut because in case one didn't work in a certain country, we could always use the other. We always had a backup. And sometimes they had different rates depending on the time of day, if it was a weekend or if it was a weekday, using both depending on which would give us a better bang for a buck in the place they were in at the time. Before you leave, don't forget to cancel all your subscriptions. For us, we had to cancel stuff like our car insurance, our roadworthy, our private health insurance, and just little bits and bobs like Netflix and things that you're not going to use when you're on the road. Don't forget to get yourself some travel insurance and also do some visa research before you go to any of these countries. We were caught out a couple of times because we were unprepared when entering or flying to a new place. And it's also variable depending on what passport you have, so make sure you do your due diligence when it comes to visas. And if you want to, you can get yourself an eSIM. Some people like to have a global eSIM that they can use in any country. Even though these are usually more expensive, it can get rid of some of the anxiety of arriving to a new place and not having any internet to find your way around. I had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do X. I figured with 30 years of work to go, what's the rush? I made this guide to help people. I feel like a lot of people need practical steps to follow. I would say that most people watching this video could do something like this. They just need to see someone else doing it. There's a quote that I often think about, which is, you can't be what you can't see. And I hope by sharing my story, it shows you that it's completely possible to take mini retirements throughout your life. Multiple mini retirements, even on a fairly low wage. I have 2 book recommendations, one of which I've already mentioned, Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robin, and Vagabonding by Rolf Potts, which a lot of the concepts from that book I borrowed for this video. And all I can say is, as someone that's done it twice now, is that I can't imagine having lived my life any other way. I feel like even if I don't make it to the traditional retirement age of 65, I feel like I've reorganized my life to live it in a logical way. I've seen too many people living a life not true to themselves and put all the stuff that they want to do off until the end of their life. And the idea that life has to follow some specific path of career, mortgage, kids, retirement is just a cultural myth. You can opt out and you'll be just fine. And it's not about not working. You still have to earn your freedom in this day and age, either by turning away from the allure of buying more things, or by using some self-control to put your hard-earned cash into things that you actually value. It's about asking the deeper questions in life, like, what is your definition of success? What is a life well lived to you? I hope you feel reassured that it's possible. It's okay to go back to work after. I've done it. I'm doing it again next week. I have made a mini retirement checklist, which I'll leave in the description below. It's completely free. I just put it together because I thought it'd be useful for anyone who wants to take a mini retirement themselves, which I hope if you have watched to the end of this video, that's you. And this video series is coming to the end. So this is the penultimate episode. So I'm going to be reflecting on the series, on the year of our mini retirement, on the year of making YouTube videos, and I hope I can share some useful nuggets of knowledge that I've learned along the way. If you're interested in that, I'll see you in the video next week. This is why you say for traveling.